Come watch me grind away $20,000 of this fine gem. Hi, I'm Steve Moriarty from MoreGems.com, and this 744 karat Morganite is still in need of some more preforming. Preforming is cutting away the bad portions of the gem that are really useless, and ending up with a piece that we can decide just what to cut out of it. So to do that, we use our coarse lap because this is a big gem and we got a lot of material to remove. And here's the lap we use. This is actually called a topper. This is 180 grit, and really you only use it in the case of a large gem where you have to remove a lot of material. This is the master lap that supports the topper. What's in this topper is 180 grit diamond coating it. As you can see, they reflect real well. You can see little diamonds in it. And when you go to the description of these videos, we'll have a complete listing of all the materials that we use in this production. So this goes on our Ultratec faceting machine. And what we're preforming on this, we've got to get rid of a few things. So this flat portion here will end up being the table of our stone. But on this side, if you make the table vertical, this side kind of slants down, and you need material at the top for the crown of the stone. So about a third of this we have to cut to flat. It's also the case on this that where this flat is here, there's a little too much material for the crown. So we have to cut in here to get our crown to an appropriate size. And then on this side we've got this big divot that we need to remove. And then once we've done this, then we can further our ideas of what I'm going to cut out of this. You know, I foresee this being a trilliant. There are things that'll give us a better yield. You know, if we cut a shield out of this and just cut this corner off, I would probably end up more like 320, 330 carats. But I know a trilliant will be much more brilliant if I determine that I can hit 250 carat weight or above. Then we'll cut a straight trilliant out of this. So when you're cutting gems, your typical weight loss is a minimum of 50%, and typically more like 60 to 70% loss from the original piece of rough. This piece, I'm sure it was far in excess of that. This was probably a very large piece that this was cut out of. So maybe the yield was 5%, or who knows. But we're going to be lucky to get 40% out of this stone. So just in preforming, we're probably going to lose 50 carats, and that's kind of where that $20,000 estimate come from, and in losing from this stone. So let's get started and start grinding. You know, to do that, you run lots of water because we're going to be losing lots of material. And we'll start with this edge first. See, we're starting to grind it away. Work a little more here at the tip. we're getting close to what we need for a crown, but still a little bit more. So what we're cutting here, this is going to be the crown of our gem. Right down here will be where the girdle line is, and this portion will be the pavilion. You know, the pavilion, of course, will cut in much sharper, but we're just trying to have enough material that we have for a crown. And once we get done cutting all these sides, we'll look at it and say, yep, I can get a trillion out of that, and then we go ahead with the faceting. So this probably, yeah, that's close, but probably just a little bit more for the crown. So we're pretty much done. That's pretty close to the amount of material we need for the crown. Don't want to overcut. So we'll go to this next side, and the problem here is there's too much crown. So we have to cut in here just to get the crown to size about where this one's at. Not too much, but needs to come in a little bit. So while cutting this, we'll make a little more pavilion, and we'll get our girdle line up a little higher on this stone. So I have to cut in more here. It's kind of, this was cut in deeper, so we're going to work on this end. You know, it's going to be a rounded trilliant, so I can kind of round it in. And one thing to keep in mind when you're using your laps, it's good if you move across the lap a little bit, just to wear it more evenly. So now I'm just looking to try and get this line kind of even with this line. Looks like I have a little more to cut yet, a little more on this corner. So that's close enough. So now go to work on this big divot in the side of the stone. So that should be close enough. Still got a little bit here, but it may come out naturally probably in the faceting. So here's the shape we have. So we have this still to deal with. You know, and like I said, if you cut a shield and just cut that corner off, it'd be by far your best yield. But I know it won't be the most brilliant gem because this side it will be much longer than these sides. And perfect symmetry gives you the most brilliance, and that's really what I'm after for this gem, just to get the most brilliant gem possible. So now that we're preformed, I've been working on the stone trying to figure out just what to cut from it. My original thought was a Portuguese style trilliant cut, and that's kind of where I'm at now. How I got here was first taking the dimensions of this piece. Here's kind of what sizes we have, because the critical factor is the depth to the width of the stone. That percentage will somewhat determine what style you can cut. So this is our width, 47. You know, in another shape, if this were the stone we were looking at with this kind of shape, this would be our width, this 31 here. But this is actually, pictured here, is the depth of this cross section of the stone. So to determine the percentage depth, you take the depth and divide it by the width of your stone. And with that, I came up with 65% depth. That's what I have to work with. And that's what you'll find on some of these designs. So I went through a lot of designs that I thought were interesting. Here's one I liked. But some of the issues with this, you know, our depth is okay. It figured out to be 64% depth. So they give you, they actually give you the depth of a pavilion and the depth of the crown. So if you add those two together, that gives you a total depth. I'm not sure why they don't give you a total depth, but they break it up into C and P, which is crown and pavilion. So that depth was 48 plus 16, 64%. Okay, the depth figured out to be 64%, but the issue with this design, you have to look here, the angles are for an RI of 176, and we're doing an RI of 157. So the angles should be different, so that makes this design a little bit off. So I decided not to use it. The other thing you want to look for in these is it tells you what index that you use. This is a 96 index. That's what we have on this machine. I also have a 64 index, so I can use either of those, but some designs take 72 index, 80 index, so you want to know that the index that you have matches the index of the design. So I went through several others. This one was a little too shallow. The depth only figured to 52%. So if you cut this, you're going to lose some weight because you're not using the total depth of the stone. And this one only estimated out at 220 carats. There are formulas you can use. You can look up formulas for gem weight estimation. There's formulas for different shapes, or there also is calculators that you can use to get these estimates. This other one estimated out to 262 carats. And then the one I finally chose, which I looked at this, which was a Portuguese cut. I'm not sure. The issue with this was, as rounded as it is, it doesn't fit my design. I actually went through and I cut these out and sized them to the size that I want to cut these out, and actually laid it on the piece of rough to try and figure out if this cut's going to fit. And the ones that are really rounded, they just didn't fit the shape of my piece of rough to get maximum yield. So I would have had to cut a smaller stone to do that shape. This one is less rounded, and this is the one I ultimately picked. It is a Portuguese style. So the other things that I've done once I figured out what I was going to cut, so for dopping, we're going to have to figure out where the center of this stone is, and that'll be in our next video. So this particular design we're using came from facetdiagrams.org. There are a few resources for different designs that we'll give you in the description, as well as the source, some of the sources for the calculators for gem weights. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and then continue on to our next video, which will include dopping of this fine gem with epoxy.